Find the amplitude of these three sine functions. We got y equals 1/2 sine x, y equals 4 sine x, and y equals -2 sine of x. All right, so first thing we should do then is just sketch the graph of sine of x, right? No number in front here, nothing else going on, okay? So this is a graph that you should be pretty familiar with, okay? And we're just going to have a wave that looks like this. And of course, it's going to extend forever in both directions, right? We're not going to plot the x-coordinates here because we just want the amplitude, okay? But the amplitude is these numbers, right? -1 to 1, okay? So there's an, I don't want to say imaginary, right? But there's a 1 in front because 1 times anything is just sine itself, right? In this case, okay? So there's an imaginary 1. So that's what the 1 represents. It goes up to 1 and down to -1, and that's the amplitude. So for each of these guys, right, all we have to do is look at the number that is in front here, okay? So if we want to find the amplitude of y equals 1/2 sine of x, okay? So y equals 1/2 sine of x, right? The amplitude here is just that 1/2. So what does that mean? How does that change the shape of the graph? Well, it doesn't really change the shape of the graph all that much, okay? It still looks the same, right? What's the only difference though? The only difference is this number here, right? That's going to be a 1/2. And then this is here going to be -1/2. Okay? So that's the amplitude. Okay? So what about this one? Y equals 4 sine of x. In this case, the amplitude will just equal 4. Once again, nothing else changes, right? Of course, the way you scale it, right, you can make it a little bit larger or whatever, but just labeling it is going to go from -4 up to 4. Okay, what about this one? Y equals -2 sine of x. Okay, so the amplitude here is still 2. Okay, but now the graph is going to look a little bit different. It's a negative here, right? So the negative tells us that the graph is going to reflect across the x-axis. Okay, but here we just want to find the amplitude. Okay, so the negative tells us that we flipped the graph, but okay, the amplitude is still 2. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Okay, so we mean that these numbers here, the graph is going to go from -2 to 2, but this graph is going to be flipped. Okay, so instead of going up as we normally do for sine, right, we would just go down and the graph would just be reflected.